All right, in this episode, we're going to talk about how to get 90% off your cost per clicks. Let's go.
Hey team, we've just recorded a podcast and it's very visual heavy, and we've just realized that might not work.
So if you are listening to this, try and jump over to either our website where we'll have a resource on it, one of our social media channels, Instagram or somewhere where we'll have the image and the graph. Or if you can, jump onto YouTube, watch it there because we'll be talking about the graph. Forgive us for being graphical on this one, but it'll help make the point and make things clearer.
Hey Ali, how are you enjoying Dublin?
I'm loving it despite the rain.
Despite the rain. Yeah, it's the same weather as we're getting in London. You know what, actually, on the flight over today, I was thinking about a topic that we've been talking about a couple of weeks ago, the economics of search.
Yes.
I really think we should get into it. You up for that?
Let's do it. Let's dive in.
Okay, fine. So the one thing about search that I think a lot of people don't necessarily get straight away is it's inventory for Amazon. And it's inventory with the shortest shelf life ever. It literally has to be shipped out and fulfilled in milliseconds.
I like how you think about it because it took me a little bit of like gymnastics to get my head around this concept of it being inventory, right? Because if you think of it, the way I go around it is I think of it as it's a product that has to be used the moment someone types in a search term. It has to be used straight away. So that's what you mean by the shelf life is like milliseconds, because within milliseconds, the product they have, which is the search ad spot, Amazon has a millisecond to fulfill that and to get it to a customer and turn it into money or potential money.
Exactly. And the thing that's, I think once you've got your head around the fact that this is a product that Amazon's selling like this, you suddenly realize that there are opportunities within that for arbitrage. And you can literally pick up search as clicks for bargain bucket prices, right? So like 90% off of the normal cost per click that you might get as an average.
Yeah. And when we talked, I thought it was a really interesting way of thinking about it. So, we should kind of unpack that and really kind of tell people our inside hack really that we use, or that you've kind of like really harnessed them through this way up, that to get people or to get our brands those massive discounts or savings through ads.
Yeah, I've created a graph to help illustrate this one because I think you're right. Sometimes it's hard to get the head around it. The key thing with this graph is what I'm trying to illustrate is the cost per click is fluctuating constantly throughout the day.
Okay, so for anyone watching this on screen, if you can see it, so basically we've got three graphs or three lines. There is a blue line, which is the supply of advertising. And so this is based around people searching. So the blue line is going to go up and down. Then we also have the green line, and the green line represents the advertiser activity or the demand. So this is how much demand is taking through. And then we have the red line, that's the final line in this, which is the cost per click. And so they all have a slightly different dynamic, and it's based around activity during the day. So think about typical workday and what happens on a typical workday. This line, all these three lines can represent that. And we're going to discuss the interplay between the three of these. So Zamir, do you want to take it from describing the blue line, the search activity, and the supply?
Yeah, sure. So what we're seeing is like search increasing in the morning time, just before people go into work and getting ready, drops off while they're at work during the mid-morning, picks up again at lunchtime, drops off in the mid-afternoon, and then really goes through it later in the day whenever everyone's home from work.
Yeah, exactly. And this is actually what we see when we heat map out all of the customer data and when purchases are taking place. These correspond perfectly with the key times when people are actually doing their purchasing.
What's really interesting then is when we overlay this with advertiser activity. So what we've got here is a lot of advertisers, their budgets restart at midnight, 1 a.m. So you've got everyone's budgets restarting. And so through the first part of the morning, there's a lot of people advertising. Now we know some of those advertisers, they day part. So they may not actually come on until about 6 or 8 a.m. So we can see advertiser activity demand for searches increasing through the morning. And then as you get into midday, lunchtime, that's when it's starting to peak. Now, what is really interesting is that as we get later in the day, that demand starts to drop off. And the reason for advertiser demand dropping off is people are hitting the caps on their budgets. So you've got a lot of advertisers that are running out of budget later in the day. And so as we get later in the day, demand falls away.
Exactly. So that's why you see that kind of like cone-shaped curve, right? So it's going up as more activities coming through, as more people are advertising, and then as their budgets run out or they just stop performing, then it dives down and comes down low.
So the next point is our red line, okay? And this is the one that we're really interested in, the cost per click. What's interesting here is we've got the interplay between this supply, the search activity, and the number of advertisers that are active on the system. And so we can see that that's increasing throughout the morning. And again, it's starting to peak around about lunchtime. And the reason for that is when the most advertisers are there. Certainly there's a lot of search activity going on, but there's a lot of advertising competing for that search activity.
Yeah. So that's why. So basically the cost per click generally is going to dive up, get really high when everyone's budgets are there and everyone's got cash to spend. So they're all competing for those same spots that are limited. And so the price goes up and then it dives down as they run out of budget.
Yeah. And this is the really important point, right? So later in the day, cost per click starts to fall dramatically. And that's because we've got two key influences. One, search is going up. So search volume is rocketing. And at the same time, loads of advertisers are capped out on their budget, so they're not competing anymore. And so, as you say, the net impact of that basic supply and demand economics is the price falls.
All right. So, and then that's the nugget in terms of the discount, right? So I think we should kind of like get to that point. And this is the secret behind the savings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important. This is a really simplistic view of it. This is constantly happening. And so Amazon's constantly being faced with the fact that they can predict search to an extent, but they can't control it. And again, they will try and get advertisers on. And look, if you're advertising under auto campaigns or broad search, then it's dragging you into this to try and, sell you search activity that may not be 100% related to what you're actually interested in. But if you're savvy and you know what you're doing, you can pick up search traffic for a fraction of the average cost per click throughout the day.
Okay, so how do we do this? Let's break it down a bit further, and because I appreciate this is really conceptual and people may not be grasping it. And so how do we make the most of this? Because that's the real crux of this, right? We're not sitting there monitoring these three lines at every point in the day. That's not what we do. We have other things to work on. How are we doing it? This is another part of the secret.
Yeah. So the simple fact is you just can't do this manually. It's impossible. So you need to learn to lean into some machine learning and some AI to start making these decisions for you and to adjust your bidding throughout the day.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, let's be more direct to me. You're being too, this is too technical. Let's get to the point. Let's kind of give the people what they want. How do we do it?
We use AI tools. Yeah. We use a piece of software, called Flywheel from Takeometrics. We've got a team of data scientists that are obviously, they test all the products out there on the market. Takeometrics Flywheel tool by our judgment is the best and the most sophisticated in the market.
Okay. And so what does it do? So it's essentially what it's doing is during the day, it is going and optimizing the bids that we're putting in based on the aggression that we've kind of set it to do. And based on that, it's going through and optimizing the bids to make the most of the price that we're paying for each ad. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. It's testing the market. It's making incremental changes, and seeing what the net result of that is to find out where the market is at that point in time. And so throughout the day, it's constantly adjusting your bids to get your clicks at the cheapest or most cost effective price possible.
Right. And look, just for anyone watching, we're not being paid by Taken to say this. This is just the reality of what we've tested out, what we think is really effective. Essentially, the key message here is you need to have some form of AI bidding tool that you're engaging. The one that we use, and we're happy to recommend, is Taker. That's worked really well for us. We've tested some of the other ones, and this is the one that we are the most happy with. That's not a sponsored ad, team, just so you're aware. And what it's doing throughout the day is it's constantly optimizing the bid to make the most of those gaps that we're seeing between the supply, the demand, and the price per click, so that people aren't way overpaying, because we see it a lot, right? So when brands come to us, we see them overpaying massive amounts. That 90% that we talked about wasn't a made-up number. We see them overpaying, and we immediately get them onto one of these tools so that it's optimized. There's other things we do, obviously, but this is one of the key things that we do, is to get them in there and to use one of these tools to optimize their bids throughout the day.
Look, if you're not using the bidder, you're definitely overpaying. There's one thing I can be certain of is if you're not using AI bidding, you're leaving a lot of money on the table.
Awesome. So, all right. Appreciate, guys. This was a bit more theoretical at the beginning, and hopefully you got your head around the graph. If you didn't reach out to us, I'm happy to explain it further, and maybe we'll put some more explanation in some of the show notes and in the captions, or we'll maybe pin something in the comments on YouTube. But the key points we're going to just summarize for you. Use an AI bidder tool that you are comfortable with. We use Taker, and make sure you optimize your bids. Otherwise, you're probably going to be overpaying, way overpaying, and your budget's going to go way further. Awesome. Cool, team. Have a great day. One love.
Let's go enjoy Dublin. One love.